everyone, welcome back. This is Neenah from Crescent. Today's video is part of a challenge hosted by Not Too Shabby Shop for guest designing for the month of November here on YouTube. And this was the challenge board. And here is what I created, picking few things from the challenge board. I'm using both digital and clear stamp from Not Too Shabby Shop. Inspired from the plaid pattern in the board, I did some paper piecing on the coffee cart using similar pattern paper from my stash. The other pattern on the board has pumpkins, mushrooms, leaves. So for the pumpkins and leaves, I used Better with a Friend digital stamp from Not Too Shabby Shop. And I really wanted to add mushrooms to my scene, so I used Fairy Glade Scene horizontal die from Hello Blue Bird and created this Halloween scene card with the cute critters and coffee and mushroom. So let's get started. I die cut a white panel using the die from Hello Blue Bird and kept the hills and mushrooms and few leaves from the background die to use later for my scene. Next, I trimmed a white panel that measures 3 1/8 by 8 3/8 inches, which is the exact size of the inside frame of the background die from Hello Bluebird that I just used, and this will create my background panel for the scene. To create the background, I'm using black soot, crackling campfire, and fossilized amber distress oxide inks here. I wanted my background to have yellowish orange color with some shadows. So here I started adding crackling campfire to the middle of the panel and then added the black soot on the top to add that dark shadows, and then lastly added fossilized amber to the bottom of the panel to get that beautiful blend from orange to yellow. I did not bother going all the way to the bottom of the panel because the bottom will be covered by the hills. Here adding a little more of black soot to the top of the panel to get that nice blend from black to orange. I really like this new distress color, the crackling campfire. It's a beautiful color to use for your Halloween scenes. Now I'm adding color to all the pieces that we die cut earlier. I did not want to add any green or brown to the hills, so I decided to use black soot and fossilized amber for both the hills. I really liked how the hills looked with the background. Fossilized amber added a good continuation to the background, and black soot added that nice night shadow to the hills. Here I'm inking up the rest of the die cuts. For my mushroom tops, I'm not using a lot of color but actually adding the colors that's already in my blending brushes. For the bottom of the mushroom, I'm using frayed burlap distress oxide ink. That's when I noticed that the top and the bottom almost looks the same, so I added a little bit of candied apple distress oxide ink to the top of all the mushrooms. For the leaf die cuts, I used Twisted Citron and Mowed Lawn Distress Oxide inks here. Next, let's work on the coffee cart. For paper piecing the plaid pattern on the coffee cart, I taped a pattern paper on a copy paper using washi tape and printed the digital image on it. And now that I have this image printed out, I can trim out any part of this image to paper piece with my actual image. Here I trimmed off the top part of the coffee cart, that's the awning, from that plaid pattern paper, and before gluing it to my image, I'm using E74 Copic marker, which is almost the color of my pattern paper, and adding color to the coffee cart. And now I'll glue the pattern paper on top of the image using some liquid glue, and that's it. The paper piecing is done. Adding color to the image before paper piecing just ensures that even if you did not have a proper cutout of the pattern paper, the white won't show from the bottom. Now adding depth to the awning by adding color using my Copic markers here. All the Copic markers used are listed on the right side of the screen, and now that I have my markers out, I decided to color the image wherever I wanted it to be brown. Here I have my whole scene planned before I start coloring or adhering rest of the elements. I will change few things here and there, but that was the basic idea of how my scene is gonna look. Here I'm gluing the hills to my background panel. The left one I glued directly using some liquid glue. For the right hill, I used some foam tape to glue it to the background panel, lining it properly with the left hill and the background panel, and it just fit like a puzzle there. Now working on the placement of the coffee cart. I wanted the coffee cart to be behind the right hill, so I trimmed the bottom of the cart to fit the scene here, and here I'm just trimming a little bit more so that it fits my scene perfectly. I'm doing this before coloring the images so I don't have to waste my time coloring the part that's anyways gonna get trimmed out. Once I'm happy with the placement of my coffee cart, I'm gonna work on adhering the rest of the elements to my scene. With the help of some foam tape, I'm gluing down the mushrooms to the scene, and using liquid glue, I'm gluing rest of the leaves to the scene. I did not glue these leaves as per the die, but actually made some adjustments according to my scene. That's the beauty of this die from Hello Bluebird. You can actually move the elements as per the scene requirements. Now that everything is planned, I'll start coloring my images. Here I'm coloring the back of the card similar to the background. You can even leave it white, but it just gives a good continuation to the whole scene. Both the digital images are from Not Too Shabby shop and is printed out on Neenah Solo White 80-pound cardstock from the inkjet printer at my home. All the critter images are from the Critter Costume Party stamp set from Not Too Shabby. Stamped these using Memento Tuxedo black ink, which is Copic friendly ink, on Neenah Solo White 80-pound cardstock. And I used my scan and cut tool to die cut all these images. Now I'll put some music for you to enjoy the coloring. But if you want to skip forward, go to 8 minutes and 56 seconds. Now the coloring is done, let's glue everything to the background panel. Here I'm gluing down the cart using some liquid glue. Now I'll glue rest of the images with a combination of foam tape and liquid glue. I really like this stamp set from Not Too Shabby. The critters are so cute in their Halloween costumes. And while I was creating this card, the story that I had behind this card was that these critters wanted to celebrate Halloween and they got all dressed up. And they got to know about this hilly area with giant mushrooms and leaves where there was a Halloween party going on. So they went there to celebrate Halloween. And when they went there, they saw this coffee cart and wanted to have coffee. And that's why I added this sentiment, let's go for a coffee. This sentiment is from the coffee cart digital stamp set. And I popped it up with some foam tape on my scene. Lastly, to make this scene a little more spooky, I'm using our Halloween sequins mix and adding some sequins along with some bats and spiders and a ghost to the scene. Lastly, adding some white and black gel pen details to the whole scene. Used black gel pen to make the eyes of the critters a little more dark. Used white gel pen to add highlights to all the images as well as the eyes of the critters. Then I glued my front panel to a black cardstock that's slightly bigger than my front panel, and then I glued it to the white card base that measures 8.5 by 3.5 inches. And that's it, my card is all done. I hope you like this card and give it a try. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. Here are a few more videos that you might like to watch. Thank you for visiting. Have a nice day.